I got this.
미안해서 어쩌나?
That was the moment in the trailer that caught my attention. The logo, the colors, the animation. I remember loudly saying, "What is this?" I can't believe it's been 5 years now since I've watched that. The year was 2020 and the world was in the midst of a global pandemic. Society was stuck under lockdown playing Among Us, Warzone, and, well, Valorant. At the start, I was on the fence about trying it out. I've never really played this style of FPS game before, and I didn't know anyone else at the time who would play it with me. But something about the art style and character design stood out to me. It just looked cool, and sometimes that's all it really takes. I didn't care if I probably sucked at the game, it just looked cool. It was also a very unique shooter since I've never really dabbled around with the hero genre before. I've also never really played Counter-Strike, which Valorant seems to be heavily influenced by, so it was all a new experience to me. 1 year later, in 2021, after using voice chat in small bursts, eventually many teammates in the game described my voice to be enticing, or any of these other fancy words I can find on Google. Mind you, I don't really talk in any other game I play. I've always been known to stay silent in most environments, but due to the game's nature, sometimes you have to communicate with your teammates. As time went on, I finally decided to step out of my comfort zone and make content, which went well until I got burnt out. But we'll dive into that later in the video. Since we're nearing the 5-year mark of Valorant's release date, I'd figured it'd be interesting to take a retrospective look over the years. I have such a love-hate relationship with it, and especially as of recent in the year 2025, I've definitely found myself playing less and less. It's still a fun game to hop on every now and then, but there's a lot I want to talk about in detail regarding Valorant. So let's dive in. What is Valorant? On the surface, it's a first-person hero shooter developed by Riot Games, the same company responsible for other titles such as League of Legends, Teamfight Tactics, and soon 2XKO. Valorant's development began in 2014 and fully unveiled in 2019 under the codename Project A. It was promoted as a tactical competitive shooter with the promise of unique characters, special abilities, and quote-unquote precise gunplay. Yeah, and I'm f***ing Radiant since we're both just gonna blatantly lie here. Jokes aside, as you dive deeper, I'd say it's a complex game. If you've played Counter-Strike before, there's certain similarities with mechanics in both games like spray patterns and the item menu, for example. Riot's objective was to develop Valorant with two goals in mind: make tactical shooters and esports more accessible to new players. So with all that information, it was time to install Valorant, and oh boy, I was so excited. All these new cinematic trailers look so good. Time to see what the hype is about. What the hell is this? What is this? Okay, well, part of making all of this accessible is the lower barrier of entry when it comes to system requirements. I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially, the developers wanted to keep the game's graphical fidelity as low as possible so that you could basically play this on a toaster. They weren't kidding about it. Valorant's lore also has a substantial amount of depth within its storytelling. You could almost say that they could make an Arcane-style animated series with how much material they have to work with, but it's probably best saved for its own video. To keep it very brief, from what I can understand, the conflict between the different organizations within Valorant's lore is what the gameplay is loosely based on. There's two teams that consist of 5 agents on each side. These teams are labeled either attackers or defenders. Defenders must protect certain positions on the map, which can be labeled A, B, or C, and the goal is to prevent attackers from grabbing the spike and planting on site. As both teams come into contact with each other, your agent's unique abilities and trained gunplay is what will carry you or your team to victory. Pretty simple, right? Wrong. This shit can get absolutely insane, but I think that's what makes Valorant stand out. The gameplay loop. It's fun. Listening to that satisfying sound effect for each kill you get in rapid succession is the part that scratches the itch in my brain. There's plenty of modes that both casual and competitive players can enjoy. Unrated is the standard mode where basically anyone can jump in and learn the game. There's a small window of time at the start of each round where players can buy weapons or specific utility for their agent. First to 13 rounds is declared the winner. Ranked is the same, but with higher stakes involved. Players are matched based on their skill level and progress through a ranking system starting all the way from Iron to Radiant, which is funny because I don't see my rank listed here. For each game you win, you'll earn ranked rating, or RR points, which slowly progresses you to the next rank. Bike Rush, for example, has lower stakes at risk and fewer rounds to reach before the game is over. Everyone starts with a random weapon, and there are orbs scattered across the map that you can obtain that have fun abilities you can use. Me personally, I'm an avid Spike Rush enjoyer. Golden Gun kills are the highlight of my day, and and you're damn right I'm proud of that. There's also other modes like Team Deathmatch, Regular Deathmatch, and Escalation, which are really just fun side modes for when you don't really want to play the main stuff. There's about 11 maps in total that you can play depending on what the current map pool is. You have Bind, Haven, Split, Ascent, Icebox, Breeze, Fracture, Pearl, Lotus, Sunset, and Abyss. Let's quickly rank these maps. These are great, these are okay, and these make me question why I'm still playing this game. Also, an interesting little fun fact I learned is during the loading screen, there's coordinates that spit out real-life locations where these maps are based on. I honestly can't believe I never noticed this. There's also about 25 characters, or agents, that you can select. Depending on your playstyle, there's an agent that'll cover that role. These roles are categorized into 4 groups: duelists, initiators, sentinels, and controllers. All roles have responsibilities that are integral to helping your team. For example, if you feel like you're an aggressive player, you might have better luck with agents like Jet. Jet's Tailwind can help getting out of a risky position, and for passive players, sentinels might be a better choice. Agents like Sage can use her heal orb to heal wounded teammates, and Chamber can set his trademark trap to seek out enemies attempting to lurk. I've been a KO main since he's joined the roster. There's only about 8 of us in the world, and we have to stick together. The combination of all these agents, their specific abilities, and how well your team communicates with each other will determine whether your team is successful in winning. That's essentially Valorant's gameplay summed up. There's always different outcomes in each match, and I feel like the different playstyles is what keeps the engagement. I'm by no stretch of the imagination a sweaty gamer, but after observing some of the competitive players, it's fascinating to see extremely hype clutch moments, which brings me to the game's balance. Now, I know when Valorant first launched, there was about 10 agents in total, so realistically, it was probably easier to balance a smaller roster. But with the current roster of 25 agents, and I can only assume it'll continuously grow, the game has its moments where it does feel a little unbalanced. Understandably, for any game with a growing roster, balancing can be an absolute nightmare. But I'll leave the competitive nature of the game to those who really dedicate their time, as they probably have a better understanding of the game's balance than I ever could. Now, if I'm being brutally honest, it's far from a perfect game. Aside from game balance, there's numerous issues I have within Valorant, and there's definitely some questionable decisions that Riot has made over the last 5 years. To start, this game is incredibly toxic. I'm not saying to silence people, but goddamn, how did it get this bad? Surveys have shown that almost 80% of players are reporting toxicity in their lobbies. What the fuck? For anyone over the age of 25, think 2009's Modern Warfare 2 lobbies. I can personally attest to this, and as a result, people are now less likely to communicate via game chat, which, might I remind you, is crucial to doing well in this game. But I'll give credit where credit is due. Riot has addressed this and is trying to combat this behavior with harsher penalties. That's fantastic. All while I'm being called every slur in the book, but you take your time, Riot, no worries. The lack of a replay system is also hilariously embarrassing. You're telling me shortly after Valorant's launch in 2020, people requested for its inclusion, and Riot's response to this, and I quote, "Yes, this is something that we're interested in exploring soon." And we're only now just getting information about a replay system? This should have been in the game at launch or very shortly after, not 5 years later. It's inexcusable from a company of this caliber. The price of store bundles is also completely out of control. Why the hell are bundles almost $80? That's ridiculous. Sure, it comes with like 8 items, but I could spend $20 on Fortnite, get a sick collaboration skin, and default dance my ass to happiness at a way cheaper price. I've spent a total of $50 when I bought this RGX butterfly knife and immediately had buyer's remorse, so there's that. I'm sure there's other issues like smurfing, abysmal loading screen times, and cheaters. Now, I know I'm not alone in feeling this, as Willius, a pretty notable Valorant content creator, also tweeted this out regarding the problem with cheaters in game. This last one I'll give Riot a pass, as it seems to be more of a widespread issue not exclusive to Valorant. Hackers have plagued almost every first-person shooter you can think of, which, believe it or not, is surprisingly not the reason I've slowly stepped away from playing this game. Let me introduce you to... It's Tinder for gamers, it's full of e-daters, there's probably copious amounts of sexual activity going on in Discord calls, and there's drama every week on Twitter. What else can I say about it? Well, I mean, okay, to be fair, any community can have its flaws. Some communities are great, but this one in particular can be kind of exhausting. I don't know, maybe the game being released during the height of the pandemic affected people's social skills more than they care to admit. So let's just take the easiest route and blame COVID. I mentioned earlier in the video that I had also started content creation with Valorant in 2021, and abruptly ended in 2024. I was among the many other content creators who were actively doing similar stuff as well. People kept assuming I'm using some voice changer or AI of some sort, but I can confirm that I'm not. It was a fun time as I got to meet other like-minded individuals and made some awesome friends in the process. Towards the end of 2024, I got heavily burnt out and figured it wasn't worth my mental health to continue doing something I felt I had lost passion for. I think I honestly just wanted to talk in full sentences instead of just doing one-line voice impressions. Those videos are still up, so if you're interested in that, feel free to check them out. I too want to cringe at my old content. To wrap this up, I still can't believe we're close to 5 years since this game's been released. I wouldn't talk about Valorant in detail like this if I didn't actually like it, and even though it seems like the player base is dwindling and more people seem to be experiencing burnout from the same repetitive gameplay loop and the lack of changes that people keep requesting and other features, I want this game to be better, and sometimes harsh criticism is necessary. Riot Games made something very special here to maintain people's attention on it for this long. It's a great game at its core, with cool characters, fun gameplay mechanics, and probably shines the best when you're playing with friends. Who knows? Maybe we can revisit this game in another 5 years, and we'll finally get that replay system we've been waiting for. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.